everyone, and welcome to another video of Linux for absolute beginners, right? And my name is Tia from DevOps Easy Learning, and today we'll be going through the difference between Linux and also Windows, right? Now, if you can click here, what will be the main difference? For instance, I have this little table here that is going to give me the main difference between Linux and Windows. As you guys can see here, Linux is an open source operating system. In IT, when we say open source, what does that mean? Open source means something that is free. That means you don't need to pay before you use that. You don't need to pay any license. You don't need to pay to do anything. For instance, Microsoft, let me take one example. When you are using Microsoft product, everything, it is closed source. That means it is not free. For instance, when you install something like Word, what are you going to do? You need to go ahead and purchase the license, right, from Microsoft before you can use that. When you have your Windows operating system, you need to have the license before you can use that. That means it is not open source, right? It is a closed source. Linux is what? Linux is free, of course. Why? Windows, it is costly. Why Windows is costly? You need a license to use Windows. Or Linux, you don't need anything. You just need to go ahead and download you just go ahead and download the ISO image, and you can go ahead, if you know how to kind of boot up an operating system, you can boot Linux up and you install Linux on your laptop, and you can go ahead and use it, right? The good thing also with Linux is that you will not have this thing called viruses. It's like in Microsoft, sometimes your computer will stop and it's going to do all kinds of why, because that computer is already infected, right? And you will not have malware, stuff like that. And also you will not need to use stuff like antivirus, because Linux is really, really secure. As Linux is open source, the community out there make sure that they patch it, right? They patch it every single time and make sure that it is up to date. Also, Linux was created by Torvald, right, in 1991, while Windows was basically created by Microsoft in 1987. And also we say Linux is case sensitive, while Windows is not case sensitive. What does that mean? In Linux, if something starts with uppercase, and you need to make sure that you take that uppercase into consideration. In Windows, we don't care. Windows don't really care about case sensitive. What does that mean? I can prove that to you guys a little bit. I have here just a little terminal here. If you're trying to say ls, as you guys can see, if you say cd and trying to change location, I can kind of move into I love Linux. As you guys can see, I am able to move into that. Let me say cd ... and I can go back one more step just to explain. If you create another folder here just with mk there, or lowercase mk there, is just to create a folder or a directory in Linux. And let me create another one called tier, and I will start with capital T. And if you type ls, you guys can see that tier is there. Can I change location and use tier like this? As you guys can see, Linux say command not found. Why? Because Linux is case sensitive, and I need to start with capital T exactly as it is. And if you hit enter now, as you guys can see, I was able to do that. And that is why we say Linux is case sensitive, right? If it's something start with capital letter, you need to make sure that you take that into consideration. And that is why most of the time you guys will see that everything in Linux, it is always lowercase. Why lowercase? Because we want to avoid this issue of case sensitive, right? Let us see the behavior, the same behavior here using Windows. As we say, Windows doesn't really care about case sensitive. Now, if you open this, if you go ahead and kind of open, create a folder here. Let me create one folder here, new. And I'm going to call this just test. And in here, I'll go ahead and create a little folder here. If you create a little folder here, just like this, and call this one tier, just like this, 1/2 uppercase. And let's say I have another one just like this, lowercase, and I'll say I. And I can even, as I can say I, and say I love, and go ahead here and say Linux, just like this. Now I have two. If you go ahead here and kind of type something here called CMD, which is the command line interface, as you can see here, ls is not recognized. I was so sure, because here we need to use dir. dir here will go ahead and show us those elements. Now, if you're trying to kind of change location now, let's say I tap T, as you can see, it was able to change location here. Why? Because Windows is what? Windows is not case sensitive. And that is why I just type it, I say CD. Now, if you go ahead and type lowercase tier, as you guys can see that it move into tier. It doesn't care about case sensitive. Or if you type this thing in, in Linux, it's not going to work. Why? Because Linux is case sensitive. There is no way that something start with capital later, like tier, and you see you want to change location, and you type lowercase here, and Linux will change location to tier, right? Because Linux do care about case sensitive, why Windows will not care about this, right? And that is basically the main purpose of that, case sensitive. And here, we're saying here that Linux can run for a very long time without restarting, and that is correct. Linux is really powerful. Linux can run for a year, right? Like 1 year without restarting. Why? Windows, if you use Windows, it is a pain in the neck. It is I don't know, every time Windows will just say, hey, force you shut down. You want to go ahead and update your operating system, right? Windows, Linux, it is not like that. As you can see here, we say there is a / used for separating the directories. Yeah, when we want to kind of move, like navigate in Linux basically, we will use, as you can see here, when we want to separate everything here in Windows, we are using a / here to separate directories. While in Linux, we are basically using a / here to separate directories. If I just say ls, and let me just say ll here, and let me cd here, for instance, just say I love. As you guys can see, if we type pwd, you guys can see here that we are using / here to separate directories, and that is basically what this means. Linux is highly secure compared to Windows, and that's something that I just explained, right? Linux is really secure compared to Windows. With Linux, you don't really need to have stuff like antivirus. Why? Because no hardware, you cannot basically have malware, right? And Linux is widely used in hacking purpose. As you can see, hacker always basically use this kind of this black screen here to do all their stuff, right? So that and hack people, right? That means hacker, if you see hacker out there, what they are using most of the time is called Linux. And also this Linux, if you see all applications that we have out there, almost 85 to 90% or 80 to 90% of those applications basically run on Linux operating system, right? And that is why we basically use Linux a lot for servers, widely used. That's it for this video, guys. Please, if you like this video, like I said, it is for absolutely beginners. Let me know in the comment below. And also, if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go ahead and do so. Also, please don't forget to follow us on social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and so on. Thank you. Bye-bye.